Hello, this is Tom, and this is Are You on the Spectrum? Really, the question is, am I on the spectrum? I wanted to share a little surprise that I got in my research. I've spent way too much time researching this, but it's an obsession. It really is. I mean, it's a passion of love in a way because if this is what I think it is, it's an answer I've been needing all my life. And that is yes, I am on the spectrum, or more specifically, according to people I've been talking with who are on the spectrum and do know they have Asperger's, so they're saying, Tom, you have Asperger's. Um, which that in combination with things like I'm going to show you here, you can see, at least for me, what the process of self-diagnosis, how it's taking shape. Diagnosing yourself is a really, 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 really tricky thing because you have to be very honest with yourself, and you have to be honest with yourself to the point of saying you may not be able to be totally unbiased and honest with yourself. I mean, you can't go back to a single memory. If you can find repetitions of it, that it's happened and you remember it and it's not just some foggy memory, um, then you can start, I think, with some reliability building that your case, in a sense, the evidence that these are things that were happening to you. Um, I've gone through this in other videos, so I'm not going to beat a dead horse here, but it's this process of learning about autism, learning about the spectrum, learning about Asperger's syndrome, and then, well, I mean, the process goes hand in hand, but you learn about it, then you start self-examining, and then you find some more of this, and maybe some questions come up, so you research that, and it goes around and around and around. Well, I just keep going to different websites and reading stuff, and I went to a website. It was the Autism Society, and about, I don't know, it was within this last week, I was on a forum for people with autism and Asperger's, and I asked the question, or I left a comment because people were talking about um, possible strange interests that people had, and which is one of the indications of people with Asperger's, is something that they do. And it's weird because partly you've been covering up, you've been in denial, you and in my case, I never even ever considered autism or Asperger's or anything like that. One, because it wasn't a diagnosis when I was diagnosed with my other things. Um, but anyway, as I'm searching, all these things are sort of, you start putting a lot of pieces to a very big puzzle together. And one of the hard things is differentiating between something you did that would have been normal, and I'm using these terms of neurodiverse and neurotypical. So was it an NT behavior, or was it an ND behavior? And I think what separates that a lot of times is, if you say you did something once or twice, or in an extremely limited situation, well, I don't want to go into details like that because there's probably another, you know what I mean. You can't start at HIs here, but I has a drive and at the computer all day. Um, so anyway, I was here on this website, and I got to back up. I was on that forum, and people were talking about different quirks, and I said, okay, let me throw this one out. I used to like taking bicycles, and sort of fascinated with the whole gearing system and the way it turns the wheel and everything. So I'd turn them upside down and I'd pedal them, and I just, you crank them up and go real fast and watch the chain and everything and the wheel. And, it's just kind of, I thought it was like what you did when you were bored or something. I mean, anyway, so I asked that question. I said, would this indicate, is this something a person with Asperger's syndrome would do? And I don't know if I got an answer back on that. I'll have to check. But anyway, I went to the Autism Society website under Asperger Syndrome, and this picture pops up. I just gotta turn the camera on. And what is the picture they chose? Oh yeah, okay. We found a kid who likes to turn bikes upside down and watch the wheel go around. I'm like, are you in denial now? Uh, that really affected me. I looked at that and I was like in a disbelief. It's like, okay. I mean, I'm assuming they picked that picture for a reason. It wasn't just like, hey, you got a picture of Bobby? Yeah, he was fixing this bicycle, so we're just to use that picture. No, I know what he was doing because that's what I used to do too. And that brought me to a new stage of realization. And that is, okay, I'm building all this evidence, and the evidence is, well, the evidence I think is weighing very heavily towards being on the spectrum. And what I am not clear about this, see now I've said this too, and you probably know this, but the APA, the American Psychological Association, their manual, their DSM statistics manual, was it Diagnosis Statistics Manual, and this is the 5th edition that came out. In the 5th edition, they included Asperger's on a more general terminology called the Autism Spectrum Disorder. Matter of fact, this is actually right in front of me. Just read it from that website. It says, Asperger's disorder was added to the American Psychological Association's Diagnostics and Statistics Manual of Mental Disorders, DSM-4, oops, I'm shaking there, DSM-4 in 1994 as a separate disorder from autism. However, there are still many professionals who consider, Asperger's disorder a less severe form of autism. In 2013, the DSM-5 replaced autistic disorders, Asperger's disorders, and other pervasive developmental disorders with an umbrella diagnosis called Autism Spectrum Disorder. So they folded up a bunch of different things that they are, I'm assuming because they're finding relationships between them all. Am I shaking here? No, I'm shaking. Okay, I thought the camera was shaking. But anyway, so I feel, it's funny I can say this, I'm still mentally trying to get my head around this. It's really hard for a lot of reasons. It's not so much, I guess part of it is I don't trust myself. I want to be that careful. Another side of me would like to have the peace of mind to know what the heck's going on. I'd like to be able to say, yeah, that's me, and that's what I've got. And then be able to move on and say, okay, now this is what I do about it. In a way, I've already started doing that, which maybe I've got some other problems going on here, but you know what I mean? I'm already looking at conversations I'm having with people and picking up how I approach things differently. And I'm so used to saying that every time I'm managing, manipulating how I behave or how I interact, that it's something wrong with me. Now I can say it's not something wrong with me. It's something that's different about me. And that may seem like a very small subtlety, but it's the difference between having any self-esteem and saying, I'm okay, I'm just different, or feeling like you are I mean, I've said this, other people have said this, and this is what makes me really think that I have Asperger's. And that is, we've all felt the same, and to the point where, like, I shouldn't even be here. I mean, this doesn't fit me. These people and it's not like you say you don't understand them. It's because you don't perceive, how do I put this, subtlety. You assume that they are doing everything right. Therefore, if there's something going on that's wrong, it must be me. And it's in those terms. I'm doing something wrong, And so you learn to parrot what they're doing. So you laugh at certain things. You kind of get the patterns down. And I don't make it sounds mechanically. It still goes into me. I mean, at least the way I felt about it was, okay, this is just the way it is. I didn't understand this before, but now I know that. See if I can give a real concrete example. Okay, I'm very literal. I'm very the construct of how I approach things I talk about, and the way I talk, and the way I break them down, and the way that I talk about them with other people is very technical or very specific and chosen words carefully and everything else. And what I'm finding is that it either goes over the top of people's heads, or if I talk about something with 10 words, they probably could have gotten the same thing out of 3. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but if I'm talking about, I don't know, a car, I guess you can use this analogy of it'd be like a mechanic having to talk down to somebody about what's going on with their car. Yeah, it's not breathing correctly. It's not getting air, so it's like choking. Well, instead of the dirty, you have a dirty air filter or whatever. And it's like I approach everything like the mechanic talking to other mechanics, and it doesn't work. So eventually, you learn ways to talk to the customer. Well, you do that, and at some level, you're saying it's because there's something wrong with you, and you never really get to express yourself like you normally would express yourself. So you really suppress who you are as a person because you're always trying to change yourself to fit into the way everyone else communicates, socializes, etc. And the fact that I can talk about this and talk with other people and bring up stuff out of the blue. Yeah, that's what I do. Yeah, that's what I do. Yeah, I did that. Yeah, that's and it's weird things like flipping bicycles, or just how you felt. So anyway, wow, I'm 14 minutes in on this. I hope it makes sense. So that was my kind of a shocker, and it really has pushed me to a level of acceptance, or to the beginning of accepting that I have Asperger's. I am on the autism spectrum. And that's another whole video, the whole acceptance process. But for those of you who are collecting information, You know, you may come across things like this. Be honest with yourself. You're not doing anybody any favor if you misdiagnose yourself, and I know that too. And I probably will accept it. And you know, what's that saying where you um, trust but verify? You know. So from this point on, I may go, okay, yep, I would say the odds are I do have Asperger's, but I will probably keep my research up for years to come. And maybe that's all I can do at this point. Anyway, I'm 16 minutes in. This is Tom with Are You on the Spectrum? And I hope everyone else is having the success in answering these questions that I feel I've been having. So good day all, and we'll talk with you later. Thank you and goodbye.